First of all, we need something to write the notes in. I personally love campus notebooks. There's just something different about the notes against a normal notebook. Plus, I've realized that the paper feels super high quality against normal lined paper, especially when your hand is gliding across the paper to write. It's super smooth, and I almost feel like it promotes me to write neater. I personally recommend using B5 as it's the typical notebook size, but A5 works nice too. I use the Kokyo Spiral Notebook, Kokyo Composition Notebook, Kokyo Smart Ring Binder, plus the Kokyo Campus Loose Leaf Paper. This is like a binder notebook type of situation, except it isn't as bulky as an actual binder, and you can actually write the notes on paper and then just slide it in, clip it, and then it's basically a notebook. Just like a lippy combo, I have my own pen combo that I've been using since 9th grade. I use the Sharpie S-Gel 0.5, which I write most of my notes in because I especially love how fine the pen is along with the ink. The Pilot G2 0.7 Pentel Energel Liquid Ink Metal Tip 0.7. Next, I like to use colored pens to point out important information or to write important vocabulary with their definitions. And since I usually give each set of my notes a different color theme, I have the whole color set. I use the Papermate Ink Joy Gel 0.7, the Uniball Signo UM153, a white gel pen. Since I'm writing with pen, mistakes happen, so I like to use the Bic Whiteout. I usually just use any mechanical pencil I have my hand on, and right now that is the Bic 0.7 HB number 2 and the Pentel HI Polymer Eraser for erasing. For highlighters, I like to use the Sharpie S-Note highlighters. I found these as a great alternative to Mildliners. The colors are probably limited in comparison, but they don't smudge after use. I have the 24 color set, but there's a 36 color set with even more color variation. Other materials may include a ruler, sticky notes, and printed out material. Whenever I start notes, I always write a title, usually with the highlighter, and I make a colorful title. And then another thing I like to use is I like to vary the thickness of my writing. For example, right here, you can tell that this is much thicker than the writing beside it. I like to use the 0.9 pen to kind of make emphasis for these like little headings and etc. And right here, I wrote a definition. I usually use it to emphasize things. For example, like this writing is thicker than the other. I'm emphasizing that both of the processes are driven. And for like further emphasis, I can use underlining, and I also like capitalize, for example, both. And then this is another like subheading in between, so I also wrote that with highlighter. And of course, I use the highlighter to actually highlight important stuff. I like to put writing on the side of this column, extra notes, better explaining stuff. For example, here I talk about productivity and producers, and then I add a little side note that's like nice to know that higher productivity is higher growth and stuff. And this is usually all the stuff that the teacher says, because many times when the teacher is doing slides or etc., they always say a little extra something or reword it a little differently, and I find that very helpful, and it's a better way to understand information. So I always write like the little tricks or tips on the side. For example, respiration loss, like my teacher said that it was kind of like taxes that the plants need to pay with their energy, and I wrote that down, and it's kind of like easier to remember that way. And here I have some equations. I also like to draw little pictures, and then I colored in with the color scheme that I have going on. I also use color pens to make things pop out or to label pictures. Sometimes I like to have questions, or like my teacher might ask a question, or it's like, what is this entire chapter about? And I write what it's about in pencil. Afterwards, I like to leave a little space. I write my vocabulary with my colored pens, and then I like underline it, and so that the vocab stands out and I remember the vocab. Usually I make flashcards for it on Quizlet later. Here are just more examples of the colors. And I sometimes have this thing. Let me find it. And I also have a lot of abbreviations. For example, I will write W and then a slash for with. I do the same thing for because, B/C. I just have a lot of abbreviations. As long as you understand them, that is what's most important. For example, the circle N, that means north. Oh, right, here's the because. And then another vocab. I underline the important stuff. For at, I like to use the actual at symbol. And some easy stuff like individual, I will like shorten it to individ, or environment, ENV. And I also like to do this thing where if I'm comparing two things against each other, for example, primary and secondary succession, I will obviously split it up. Sometimes I will fold the page like this, so it'll create a natural split. For example, this one I folded it, I believe. Yeah, it like naturally folds already because I already folded it. I don't fold the entire page, I only fold the top half for when I need the chart. And it creates a natural divide. And sometimes, if I have time, I will highlight it, like how I did here with pen. But that's just how I compare and contrast things. Here I colored in the numbers. But whenever I'm doing math, I like to show the math out, like every individual step, even if it's kind of dumb, like 18 to the minus 9, it's obviously 9, divided by 10, it's like obviously 0.9, but I like to write the individual steps in case I do forget, like I know exactly how to get to the answer. Sometimes I emphasize the plus, for example, I added extra emphasis on that. And that is basically it. But for example, I would like draw an arrow up to show increase, decrease, plus for positives, versus, and here I folded the page again. Like you guys can see the imprint. Because, let me see, why did I fold this page? Oh, it's for the bottom here because the factors that increase footprint and decrease footprint. And then there's just like more notes like less gas, etc. That is basically stuff that I like to do. And I like to write the and symbol. For is, I like to just replace it with the equal sign because it basically means that. And sometimes I like to change the font up to make it pop out benefits. This is usually when I'm just feeling like it. I usually just go with the flow. And here you guys can see like the little sections like terracing, perennial crops, windbreakers, no-till. I wrote it with the thicker pen and then I just underlined it. These are my science notes. Next, I'm going to show you guys my history notes because history is a little bit different from science. Oh, this was a pen I was testing out and it leaked. But I did the same thing here where I folded the page. But yeah. These are my history notes. They're a lot wordier than the science because I am reading the history textbook and then I'm taking notes as I'm reading. Usually I like to read a page of the notes or like however long that section is and then I stop and then I write the notes down. For example, history is just kind of a little different. For example, this one's about the president. I have the title about the president and usually for my history books there is a goal in front and I like to write that down. For example, this one is characterize the expectations for and the backgrounds of the president, and then I leave some space and then after I finish reading the chapter I like to summarize it by myself here to basically see what I learned. Here, same thing, like who are they, answer the question, and then some side notes. But history is a lot more wordier. For wordier things, you gotta make sure that you leave some space in between so it's not just all jumbled up and then you don't get like overstimulating from reading too much. For example, like I space it out. I use black and then my colored pen. Like I like to alternate vocab. Here's some like something really important, like the president's succession, like what happens after the president is gone, like vice president's first, Speaker of the House, the president of the temperate senate, and then cabinet people. And sometimes for the subheadings, if I like switching the colors out too much and it's kind of confusing what is important information and what is highlighted, I like to put these stars beside the actual headings. Some simple things like good, bad, some more notes. Usually these ones, my history notes, are much more difficult to take. This one I wrote in complete pencil because I don't know why. But as you can see, like, they don't have that pop of color to make the emphasis in between them. And then I think this here is, oh my god. Oh, let's not look at that. That was something scary, guys. And this is just my FRQ practice. Sometimes I will use 2 highlighter colors to add a little variation in, especially if it's just history notes and it's just basically all words and no pictures, unlike my science notes. So yeah. So I have my notebook here, and I've already written the title from a few days ago, but my topic is going to be global energy consumption. I used my highlighter to write the title, and I like to write the unit. My color scheme, as you can tell, will be teal. I have this highlighter and then this pen, and they will be my combo. So going first off, I usually just go off of the slides, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, let's do it. The first thing I'm starting off with is by writing the subheading with my thicker 0.9 pen. And here I'm switching off to the 0.7 to again create that contrast between the 2 inks. And I'm just writing basically all the information that I find necessary from the slides with my 0.7 ink pen. Doing a little contrast between developed and developing countries, so I'm highlighting the difference between the ED and the ING. Here I am just again writing notes from the slides. A key factor I found is that when you're writing whatever notes you are, make sure that you're processing what you're writing, because this will actually help you memorize it more, because I feel like anyone can just blindly write stuff down and not process it, but the whole point of taking notes is so that you understand the information and what's going on. So be actively thinking about the information as you write it down and trying to comprehend it before you write it down. Here I'm using my colored gel pen to write some vocabulary. We have subsistence fuel, and I'm just underlining it and writing the definition right beside it. Whenever I write a definition down or just anything in general, I like to give myself some examples that I understand so that I can know what I'm exactly talking about and relate to it easily. And here I'm writing a little extra note on the side like I talked about before to further explain something.